So as we consider all the ways that God has been faithful to our church and all the exciting plans that He has for us to be active participants in His kingdom building, Women's Ministry's primary goal is to encourage the women. And as we thought about all the transition that's about to take place, and we really wanted to focus on prayer for this year. Women's Ministry, as you all know, kind of functions as a resource for the church to provide all sorts of things, whether it's coordinating meals on a Sunday, to also coordinating Meals on Wheels for new families, as well as families that are experiencing any kind of transition where they may need meal assistance, to working with the diaconate to execute events. But all of those things, as we thought about all the different efforts or the efforts that have been made and all the different acts of service that we provide, it's essentially meaningless if they're not rooted in prayer. And as we consider Pastor Jeff's sermon today, as well as Pastor Joel's Sunday school series on women, clearly the church needs women, but more so, the church needs the women to feel empowered. And we realize that empowerment is not by anything that we can do ourselves, but it's really by us coming together as a community and praying for our church. God loves His church, and our goal is to grow in our own love for the church, to reflect God's heart and His love for the church by joining together and praying. So one of the major, events that we'll be having throughout the year is we'll be having quarterly women's prayer fellowship meetings. Just like I announced during the announcement period at the closing service, we'll be meeting quarterly. It's an opportunity for all of us to come together and really address those prayer requests that are on the bulletin every Sunday. I know all of us take it home as individuals. We're tasked with the responsibility of praying on our own. And I'll be the first to say that I probably don't look at that bulletin or look at those requests often enough as an individual. So it gives us an opportunity to come together as women to pray for one another. And also to realize that as we consider those requests, if there's a member that's suffering, it's not just that member that's suffering, but that we all suffer together to prayerfully consider those needs as our own, and to do that as a body. Another thing that we will be focusing on is Saturday morning prayer. So we will be joining the KM. The KM meets every Saturday. We will try to be as ambitious by meeting twice a month. And it will be at 6 a.m. We'll be just joining the KM. And it's just to encourage the women and let all of you know that there will be other EM women there praying. What we can do is that if there's enough of us as a group, we can go to another room and pray together. And it's just a time for all of us to get together and pray. So we hope that by having these regular prayer meetings, it's going to motivate all of us to prayerfully consider the church on a regular basis. And also, it's, I think, a tangible reminder for us that anything that we do, any of our efforts, if it's not rooted in prayer, then and if we're not trusting in the Lord and we're not committing those things to Him, then it's going to be based on our own effort, and we all know how that ends up. It's just going to be worthless. So that's the goal.
Just to briefly talk about the nurture aspect, just as the worship deals with the vertical relationship between us and God, the nurture deals with the horizontal relationship between just amongst us. And two core ministries, I mean, we have many other things, but two core ministries other than the women are our districts and growth groups. We all know what those are. And just to reiterate, growth groups are there just for new people to get plugged in. As our church has grown, we needed to localize just the fellowship that we can have, because ideally it's hard to have each and every one of us come together like what we had when we first started in 93, when there were only 20 people. So districts have been a good place for people to get plugged in. And as well as growth groups. When the women started with growth groups, we thought it was good just for the whole church to get more. Something more than just districts, really incorporate our relationship with God personally, but also with us corporately. And right now, we just want to go ahead and continue. And the key thing through this transitional process is continuity. So we're able to continue to meet as districts. Fortunately, we're pretty much at the same level as the previous round in terms of the number of people and the number of groups that we're able to have. But we're also able to get new leaders, new facilitators into growth groups, which is a positive. And so moving forward, what we want to do is I'm going to work with Minjung with regard to growth groups to structure it so that we can go ahead and go, okay, what's next? What's next beyond growth groups? Or in terms of how can we go further into our relationship with God and with one another. So those are things that we're going to try to work with. And also with regard to districts, I want to meet with the leaders more and figure out, is what we're doing good enough? Is there more we can do? So I really want to solicit, if you guys have any recommendations, any suggestions on how we can improve, not only with regard to districts or growth groups, but just the nurture aspect of our church. Because my desire is that when we're having these programs, is that it wouldn't just end there, but that we would organically and dynamically truly care for one another. All this is really an avenue or avenues to really build relationships with one another. And that is my ultimate desire as we've come across in terms of this transitional process. It's really given me insight into what we really need to do to find security. And that security ultimately is in God. But how do we do that tangibly? And that's really to find comfort and security in the fact that we all share this common purpose, this common vision to go forth with the expansion of God's kingdom. And so to find comfort in that with one another, but to share that. So really to intimately build relationships, beginning with us leaders, and then stepping down to each and every member. That every member would be accountable. That's my hope is the goal. Right? So I'm hoping that with districts and growth groups, that we're not satisfied. Right now we have about half of the congregation involved in growth groups, but we want every single person to do.
Thanks. If that's the worship element and the nurture element, third element is evangelism. Before Pastor Jeff comes up and speaks to us about it, brothers and sisters, I want you to know, the church has been known, and one of the attractions that I have is that we've always sent off the best in our church to seek God's kingdom's work. That's been always the case with Lloyd and Ina, with Jim and Claudia overseas, Owen and Margaret. If all these people stayed here, the church would have been even better. This past year, we sent off Alex and Jeannie in their Cambodia ministry, and we were grateful to the Lord that we can really indeed send the best. This is not to say you're not the best, but we've sent the best, and we look forward. We really do. I've undermined myself, didn't I? We look forward to this year, sending off our best to Church Plant in Irvine, in Jeff and Helen. We look forward to that, and then to kind of help us to think through how this is a purpose-driven way we think about our church. I'm going to ask Pastor Jeff to come up and speak to us about it.
Thank you, Joel. Our church has always been and will continue to be committed to evangelism. This is reflected in what we want to do Easter Sunday. Not only as an EM, but as the entire church, as King and EM. We really want to be focused in bringing our non-believing friends and co-workers to church and to have a special service where the gospel can be clearly communicated. Of course, we encourage everyone to bring their non-believing friends every Sunday because in a regular Sunday service, they are going to be confronted with the gospel, not once, not twice, but possibly 3 times. The confession of sin, declaration of pardon, in the sermon and in the sacraments. And so, some of you may feel a little bit unequipped to share the gospel with someone. Well, if that's the case, bring them. Allow the church, allow the elders to share that gospel with them. Missions. Boy, we've got so many short-term mission trips available for you guys. We've got Mexicali at the end of this month. We've got the summer missions to Cambodia. We have medical missions to Cambodia. The youth group is going to send a team to, Lord willing, an Indian reservation this summer. And so, again, we see our church's pursuit of our vision to evangelize and expand God's kingdom in the world through the various short-term mission projects that we're a part of. And of course, there is New Life Irvine. New Life Irvine is an extension, it's part of our church's desire to expand God's kingdom. And research shows what is the best way to reach a city with the gospel? It's by planting a church in that city. And so what we want to do is reduplicate what God has done here in Garden Grove, over there in Irvine, and establish an engine church, establish a church that will multiply itself and expand God's kingdom through other church plants. And so this is vital to see New Life Irvine under the vision of our church. It's not a separate competing entity. This isn't, are you going to join them or are you going to stay here? No. If you join them, you are supporting the home church, because by joining, you are fulfilling our church's vision. If you stay here, you're supporting the vision of Irvine, because we're all on the same team. We're all about God's kingdom. And so this mentality, there's a big difference between saying we are losing so-and-so and we are sending so-and-so. And so that's the type of mentality that we want to have. And from March to June, with the launch team, Pastor Joel eloquently described it as an incubation period, where it is our prayer that those who will be going will be encouraged and edified, so that the baby that will be born won't be premature, pre-developed, but excited to go. You know, hopefully we'll give birth to a full-grown man, right? But we want that type of mutual encouragement as we join hand in hand. And then the Southeast Asia Partnership. Some of you guys, most of you guys, it's probably the first time you've ever seen the title. This is formerly known as the Cambodia Partnership. This is an exciting thing that God is doing. In 2006, the NLMA identified Cambodia as a primary place to focus on for missions. Lo and behold, 4 years later, we have expanded from 2 units, Esther and Lloyd and Ida, to 11 units serving out there in Cambodia. In 4 years, that team has grown from 2 to 11 units, with more on the way. Pastor Damien and Youngmi, Tim Lin and his family, and others who are praying and preparing. And not only has God expanded the number of units working over there, burdened to serve over there, but He's also expanded the home base, the resource from which this team is drawing from. Before, it was primarily the NLMA churches who were providing all the financial, spiritual assistance. But now we've opened it up. And this March, we're going to have over 20 churches gathering at a conference as we strategically see how all 20 plus more can utilize our resources and strategize together to conquer not only Cambodia, but all of Southeast Asia. And so what God is doing over there, He's expanding. And what God is doing over there, we want to see done over here as well. We want to see it done all over the place. That's our vision for God's kingdom. That's why we exist. That's what New Life is all about.